5 workers' comp mistakes you want to avoid in your business. Workers' compensation insurance can be difficult to understand and at times feel overwhelming. What are you supposed to do? Hey, I'm Sari from Kickstand Insurance, and in this video, we're going to discuss a few mistakes you want to avoid in managing your workers' comp policy. Failure to do so can cause a mess with your documentation and issues at audit. So ready? Let's begin. Number 1. Not including the payroll and wages you pay to your 1099 employees. So we all know that every state requires companies to have workers' comp insurance once they reach this magical minimum number of employees. The actual number will vary from state to state, but every state at some point requires you to have workers' comp insurance. What is not so obvious is that you are also required to have workers' comp for 1099 employees. Most people are like, 1099s are not employees, they don't need to be covered by insurance. But guess what? If they don't have a policy, you may have to pay for them at audit. So what should you do? The best idea is to only hire independent contractors, aka 1099s, that have their own workers' comp policy, and make sure you get proof of their coverage, their certificate of insurance, before they start working for you. If not, you may want to be proactive and add them to your regular workers' comp policy so you don't get a huge bill at audit. Number 2, not keeping proper documentation of payroll records. Record keeping is the most important thing for workers' comp insurance. There are a few common mistakes that can be made in this category. Let's go through them one by one. The first is called payroll separation. This is not very common, but if it applies to you, this means you will divide one employee's job into 2 different classifications and pay a different rate based on each task. If this applies to you, make sure you keep very detailed records on what they do when, so you don't have any issues at audit when you try to look back and see how much time they spent on each type of task. Another one is improper use of class codes. Every employee's job is assigned to a certain class code. If they're assigned to the wrong one and it's discovered at audit, you will be responsible for the difference in premium. Here's another: use of subcontractors. Another frequent cause of error is how you document your subcontractors, or no documentation at all. If you use subcontractors, make sure you keep clear records of what they're doing and when and how much you've paid them. Now here's one for everybody: general payroll records. Records should display a breakdown by each employee for things like benefits, retirement, overtime, sick time, and bonuses. All payroll records should also be able to be verified by any tax documentation. And lastly, be careful with the cash. If you pay people with cash, document it properly. Audits will pick up on cash payments and you will be required to pay premium for them. So you can clearly see that having clean and clear records is very important, no matter how your business is structured and who you employ. Here's the next one. Number 3, not complying with loss control. Often, for a new policy, the insurance company will conduct something called a loss control visit. This means they typically hire a third-party safety engineer who will either call or come down to your place of business and conduct a safety assessment. At these visits, they're looking for ways to make your workplace safer, and they will give you a report of their findings and make suggestions on where you can improve. Many people ignore the safety engineer when they're trying to set up a call or a visit because it just seems extra and not important. What they fail to realize is this is a key part of your workers' comp policy, and failing to comply with it will get you in trouble. Also, the suggestions in the report are not suggestions. They're actually required for you to respond to them. You don't have to implement them all immediately, but make your best effort to implement them. They will keep your workers safe, and definitely answer the report. Say, we've implemented 1, 2, and 3. We're working on 4 and 5. If you fail to set up the meeting or respond to the report, your policy could be in jeopardy. So don't let that happen. Number 4, letting your owner's exemption expire. So let's go back a second. Owners are not required to be covered by the workers' comp policy. However, if you don't want to be covered, you have to file something called a certificate of exemption. Some states, it's really simple. Other states, it's slightly more complicated. But once you have it on record, you don't need to be covered. But here's where the trouble comes. They expire. If you're not paying attention and your certificate expires, you could be liable for the workers' comp premiums. So don't let it expire. Jot it down in your calendar and renew it before that date. Number 5, and this is the biggest, most important one, not complying with the audit. Every workers' comp policy has an audit at the end, whether it's canceled or it runs through the term. If you ignore the auditor and don't comply with the audit, you can be fined an additional 20 to 50% of your original premium. Ouch, that's a lot of money. Although audits can be stressful and a pain in the neck, don't ignore them. If you've kept decent records and paid attention to most of the things I've outlined before, you should be A-okay. And even if you haven't and you've made some mistakes, the difference in premium you'll pay is probably not as much as if you ignore the audit. That's usually the most expensive. So when the auditor calls, pick up the phone and schedule that audit. Does this sound overwhelming and a tiny bit scary? We're here to help. The team at Kickstand Insurance is here to support you, hold your hand, and guide you through this tough maze of workers' comp insurance. If you're looking for workers' comp, you're in the right place. Head to Kickstand Insurance, fill out an instant quote to get started, and our experts will be in touch with you really shortly. So what are you waiting for? Go get a quote. We can't wait to work with you. Good luck. Remember to like and subscribe for more business and insurance tips. See you next time.